It's adrenaline. You get out on the water tournament morning and your blood starts pumping. You go out trying to beat other people, but the real main goal is just to beat the fish. My name's Casey Reed. I got started bass fishing, just catching bass in a local pond, and moved to bigger lakes, started fishing tournaments, and been a bass fisherman ever since. Virginia has some amazing fisheries. You have some great river fisheries, a lot of big lakes, some tidal waters, a little bit of everything, and some big bass. I fished multiple tournaments from Texas to New York and down to Florida. So I fished in the Bassmaster Championship and had a top 10 finish. It was an amazing experience to get up in front of the crowd and walk across the stage under the lights, have your name up on the screen, the stage that every fisherman wants to walk across. It was awesome. A good kayak tournament angler really takes decision making, it takes patience, and it takes a lot of research. You're researching the body of water that you're fishing, the patterns that have held up there in the past, the contour of the lake, the water temperature of the lake, and the different areas that fish tend to hold to during whatever time of year that you're going to be there. The kayak I'm in now is the Sportsman Autopilot 136. Being able to find stuff with my 360, put a mark on it, pull up to it, hit the spot lock, and I can just repeatedly make that cast and catch the fish that's on there. Bass fishing for me is just so much fun. I mean, you never know where they're gonna be, and to be able to go out there and catch a 5, 6, 7, 8 pounder kayak bass fishing, it's really awesome.
Hey everybody, Ryan Lilly here with Old Town, coming at you live from Richard B. Russell Lake on day 2 of the Bassmaster Classic Kayak Championship. Beautiful, sunny, hot day today for day 2. Although it was hot, the fishing was a challenge for a lot of people today. Patterns didn't stay consistent, and I'd like to talk about that with our team today. First up, come on over, Ben. We got Ben Rayfield. How you doing today?
Doing good. Hot, tired.
Hot and tired. Yeah, I believe it. So, we came up on you, midday. You had just caught a fresh limit of 5 fish. Can you talk about your experience today and compare it to day 1?
Yeah, I mean, it just seemed like everything shut off early this morning. Took me a lot longer today to get at that limit. I don't know what changed. The water temperature was actually cooler today than it was yesterday, and we're having warmer temperatures, so not really sure what's going on. But I was just thankful to get a limit today and able to upgrade a couple times throughout the day. But fishing actually, to me, seemed like it picked up the later we went on into the day.
Now, it looked like, I think we rolled up on you too, and you just changed your tactic. So talk about what you were throwing, throughout the competition and what worked, what didn't.
Yeah, so I was, so yesterday I was throwing a wacky rig, was my main lure, but I was using green pumpkin. So this morning I started off doing the same thing, and then right before y'all pulled up, I just broke off, retied, and I thought, I'm gonna throw a black. As soon as I tied the black on, first cast, 16.5. So caught the rest of my fish all day today on black, and then changed over to actually a bubblegum pink, just to give something, just to get it all out, and actually end up catching a 14 3/4 to be my final call of the day.
I mean, it says something. You get to the point to where you start throwing pink lures.
I knew they hadn't seen it. I knew they had not seen it.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben, so much for coming today. I think last time I checked, I mean, we should tell you that the leaderboard was shut off at about 1:30, so no one knows what the final results are. I mean, the anglers kind of know where they landed for the day. I think the last time I checked, you were hovering right around 23, 24 with upgrade or two, and we don't know again who else has logged fish, so hopefully that maintains. Maybe you'll upgrade a little bit, but good job. I mean, out of 90 anglers to finish that high up, thank you so much and good job.
Thank you guys for doing what y'all are doing this week.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right, Jim, come on over. Jim, he has won 2 of the Bassmaster Kayak Series events. He came into this, with tailwinds. He's comfortable fishing in this area. You are from Tennessee, so these are kind of local waters for you. Can you talk a little bit about what your experience was like the last 2 days?
That's a big stretch.
I'm trying to help you out.
Yeah, it's been tough. Been tough for me. I had largemouth located in practice and couldn't find them. 2 days, couldn't find any of them. Today was pretty tough. I didn't have anything for probably the first 2 hours or so. And it was probably 1 o'clock, 1:30 before I got my number 5.
Wow, and that's a difference from yesterday. I mean, you had your first 5 before 10 o'clock.
Before 8:30.
Yeah. So what were you throwing yesterday compared to what were you throwing today? And how did your game change throughout the tournament?
Well, yesterday was still spinnerbait, still wacky rig, but today couldn't get them on anything other than plastic, nothing.
No kidding. Can you talk a little bit about location? Were you casting at banks? Were you deep? What were you doing there?
No, everything I caught was probably 8 foot of water, parallel to the banks. Yeah.
Got it.
4 of my 5 fish came off of one tree.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean,
I went back there and got
No
two more after
I
that.
was sitting there thinking to myself, I mean, it's easy to be a Monday morning quarterback, but I'm like, man, I would probably move on. And you ended up squeezing out 4 more fish off of that log.
Four off of that one.
That's crazy. Well, thank you so much. Again, we don't know where you landed in the lineup, but top 30?
I didn't put any fish in until after the board went off.
Okay, so we won't know.
I didn't have any reception.
We'll have to stay tuned for tomorrow's results to see how you did. But
yeah. I don't think there's any need to stay tuned. But
well, thank you so much for being here, Jim. Good job.
Thanks.
All right, Anthony, come on over. Anthony, just a little bit of a recap. Yesterday was a struggle. Mm-hmm. You lost a bunch of fish. Mm-hmm. I couldn't really talk about that much because it was the tactic that you were going after. I didn't want to give it away. Can you talk about what happened yesterday, what happened today? And
yeah, so yesterday I had an early morning spook topwater bite for about an hour and a half, and I caught 2. One wasn't scoreable, the other one was, and then I lost over a limit in spook bites, and just it didn't matter what other topwater, they weren't going to touch it. But that cove that I was in, that topwater bite was on. Played again today, this morning, with a really good one. You guys showed up right whenever I caught that 18 right off the bat, and that was just beautiful. And they weren't as active today. Yesterday it was really active in there, and after you guys left, they were gone. But then I continued my bite yesterday, but it was just very slow yesterday. I only maybe got 10 bites all day yesterday, but today I couldn't stop catching fish. I caught like 15 or 20 today, and never caught anything big other than that 18, but 15, 14, some change. So I only ended up in the mid 70s today, but it was a lot better.
Yeah. So how much ground did you cover today versus yesterday?
Today I would say I covered not really. It wasn't necessarily about the ground. It was about slowing down. I put that Minn Kota motor on 2 on the autopilot, and I literally just stayed at 2 or 1.5, depending on if the wind was pushing me, and just kept on going with it. I hit one cove where they were just feeding on bait fish in the back, and I sat there for about an hour and just kept catching fish after fish after fish. So, but I mean, I would say I covered 4 or 5 miles, maybe 6, and then coming back was another mile or so.
Yeah.
So
no kid. Well, good job. Way to make it happen today versus yesterday's struggle bus. But it was great to see you catch that fish this morning. Thanks so much for being here, man, and good job. All right, come on up, Casey. I want to talk to you today. Yesterday, you landed just an incredible fish. I think you got big bass yesterday, correct? You caught the biggest bass.
It was the biggest bass of the day, yeah.
Biggest bass, potentially the biggest bass the entire competition. I mean, it was 24 3/4.
Yeah.
You caught it. Now we can talk about what you caught that thing on. I would love to hear the story there, and then maybe how your plans changed on day 2.
So I caught it on a drop shot. Most of my fish came on a drop shot yesterday. I caught probably 10 or 12 on the drop shot and 2 on a crankbait. Today, I was expecting to go in there and do the same thing pretty much. I knew I kind of hit those spots a little bit, but I wasn't expecting to catch as many, but I figured I could go in there and catch them decently. But they did not really want the drop shot today. But I managed to get 4, and I couldn't fill my limit though.
So you're one fish shy from a limit based on what you submitted today. How are you feeling? Do you think that's going to put you up there, in top 10, or how close do you think you'll come?
No, so I don't think I'll be in the top 20. I'll be lucky if I get into somewhere in the 20s range.
And that's tournament fishing. That's like the ups and the downs. I was talking to Brandon Palaniuk, who's a brand ambassador for us yesterday. He's fishing the Elite Series. I was talking to him yesterday. He was struggling during practice, and he's like, I don't know if I've put together a winning combination for this. We were chatting back and forth. I said, well, I could turn around tomorrow, because I told him, your story, practice was terrible, and then you had a great first day. We just exchanged a few text messages, and he came back and said, the one constant about fishing is things always change. So, I could see where, wanting to recreate the same thing and having to mix up your game a little bit. Can you talk a little bit about, like, tail end of the day, you're trying to scratch those last two fish. What's the process look like? What are you trying to do? You trying to cover more ground? You trying to just change baits and presentations? Like, what are you trying to do at the the 11th hour to try to scratch something out?
Well, so I kind of figured out they were biting a jerk bait. I ended up catching 2 on a jerk bait, and so I just kind of, at the very last hour, I was just running around hitting points with the jerk bait, and just I caught 2 really quick in one area, so I went back there and just I thought for sure I could get another one, but it just never happened for me.
And last question, this lake's huge. Our team was pretty spread out. We had to travel from one point to the next to find you guys. Talk about, like, how you decided to come into this lake, where you were going to focus your time and energy. Was it all dependent on how practice went? You kind of stayed the plan there, or did you know going into this week, ahead of time based on e-scouting where you were going to go?
Yeah, I kind of knew about where I wanted to go. That's where I ended up fishing, but I just figured largemouth would probably win it. I figured you'd have to have some big largemouth, and this lake isn't real well known for largemouth. It's more a spotted bass fishery, but so I was trying to get in the backs of the creeks and kind of get in those largemouth holes.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. I mean, maybe not the outcome you're hoping for, but you put on a super strong showing. It was a really hard day for a lot of people, and way to stick with it, man. We're just so happy to have you on the team. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for everything.
Yeah, you bet, man. All right, Mark, come on up. The 2021 Bassmaster Classic champ. He was here to defend his title. It was a tough day for a lot of people. Talk to me about how your day 2 went.
Day 2 was rough. I forgot to charge my batteries last night, so I got a late start on the water. Went to a new spot that I hadn't even been to. My buddy was fishing over there, and I didn't get bit till about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Missed about 9 or 11 fish. I boated 4. So,
which, when we saw you, I think we rolled up on you at noon. We must have got on the bite right after we left, but you still hadn't caught a fish yet.
Yep.
And so we kind of left wondering, well, hopefully the late start didn't affect you too much, but you were able to chalk up 4 fish in a very short amount of time. Can you talk about what you were throwing?
Yeah, I was throwing a little Excite square bill in a shad pattern, and I was just running it into laydowns, and as soon as I'd pull it over the laydown, the fish would just inhale it, and sometimes I wouldn't even feel it, but I could see it, and I was late on the reaction, so didn't get them all in.
Now, one thing that we did notice, the crew and I, when we were out chasing everybody, most everybody were focused on natural structure. Whenever we came up on you, you were fishing bridge pylons and, rocky jetty points that were man-made. Could you talk about your strategy? Was that on purpose, or we just...
Yeah, it's always on purpose. Rocks hold heat. Any riprap that I can find, I'll typically at least give it a pass or two to see if there's fish there. Unfortunately, I left that riprap too early because my buddy that was fishing with me and staying with me, Dylan, hit it later in the afternoon, and he picked up some good fish off of it. So
not quite sloppy seconds, but he probably owes you a drink later.
Probably.
Well, thank you so much for being here, man. We're just super honored to have you a part of our team, and safe drive and next year.
Appreciate it. Thank y'all.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Rod, come on up. Rod, you had a hard first day. You know, it was either people had a really hard first day, they had a really hard second day. You just so happened to have a really hard first day. What was your day two like? What'd you do today? Did you go a little bit on vacation or?
Well, what I did was I was out hog hunting. After seeing what Casey did, I went strictly after largemouth, and they didn't show today. So I was using, you know, flipping a jig into heavy cover and just really working, trying to put one of those big fish out, and they weren't working. So late in the afternoon I said, well, I'd put something on the board. So I went out on one of the rocky points, pulled up my drop shot, and 10 minutes I put a spot on the board. So it was a tough day as far as that. The fish changed. I thought it was me. Talking to all the fishermen afterwards, I guess the largemouth didn't show today. So, you know, in the pre-fishing, they were there, and they would bite the drop shot. They would bite. I was throwing an underspin. Had really good luck with an underspin, but today just wasn't largemouth day. I should have stayed with the spots, but I was out of it. The other thing that happened is when I went this morning. I didn't know where anybody else was. We don't tell each other where we are. So I get to the ramp, and I'm like, oh, wow, I get this one to myself. I'm unloading my boat, and 3 of my teammates that are in the running show up, and I walk over to them and say, where are you guys going? I don't want to mess you up. So, and then there was 2 other guys that were in the top 10 that showed up there, and so I gave them the primary spots. So I kind of went away in the secondary spots. It's only fair, and good sportsmanship and being a good teammate. I just backed off and went and played in other places.
What a gentleman. What a gentleman. You probably hold the door open too. Yeah. Well, I have to say, Rod, it's really refreshing to be down here in the South and have another Maine accent to relate with. After all these Southern boys, it's just nice to have a Northerner. But good job.
I was just talking to Ike Nelly, and I guess we can consider him a New Englander. He's close. And
adjacent.
Adjacent. He said you can walk on your water right now. So,
yeah.
But he said some nice things about Maine. He fished 2 Major League Fishing events up there, and he was talking about really killing them. I said, you come up and we'll show you some.
Absolutely. That's right, Ike. Come on out. We'll show you a good time. We'll lend you an Old Town so you can come up and have some fun with us. But Rod, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you. For
appreciate you being here, and safe drive, and we'll see you at home. All right. Okay, so would love to know, leave in the comments if you've been tracking along with the tournament the last couple of days. We'd love to hear from you on what your predictions are for who's going to take the championship this year. If you want to find out who wins the crown of Bassmaster Champion for 2022, stay tuned tomorrow. We're going to stream it live on Old Town's Facebook page around 4 o'clock, so stay tuned Eastern time. We're also going to come live from our booth at the Bassmaster Classic Expo tomorrow around 11 a.m. So if you want to get a peek at what's happening at the Expo and at the Old Town booth, tune in tomorrow at 11 a.m. and then again tomorrow around 4 p.m. for the awards. Thank you so much for tuning in and staying along with us. Drop your guess as to who wins this year, and we'll see you soon out on the water.